Picture this. Nothing. No stars, no galaxies, not even time. Just nothing. And then, boom, the universe explodes into existence. That moment is called the Big Bang, about 13.8 billion years ago. And in less than a second, reality as we know it begins. Tiny particles zip around like cosmic fireworks, eventually forming the first atoms. Hydrogen and helium, super boring, right? Well, not really. Because those little guys become the fuel for the very first stars. And stars? They're nature's factories. Inside their burning hearts, they start forging the heavier stuff. Carbon, oxygen, iron, the ingredients of planets, people, pizza, and literally everything. So yeah, next time you breathe, thank a star. You're basically inhaling recycled stardust. But stars don't like to be alone. They gather into massive star cities we call galaxies. One of them, out of trillions, is our home, the Milky Way. It forms about 13 billion years ago and quietly spins in the dark, waiting for its main character to show up. Fast forward to 4.6 billion years ago. A giant cloud of space dust collapses, starts spinning like a cosmic pizza dough, and, boom again, the sun is born. Around it, leftover dust clumps together into planets. Some get too close and burn, some drift too far and freeze. But one little rock ends up in the sweet spot: Earth. At first, Earth is a total nightmare. Volcanoes exploding, oceans of lava, constant asteroid bombardments. It's basically a cosmic demolition derby. But give it a few 100 million years, and something amazing will happen. Because on this violent rock, life is about to spark. And that's where our story really begins. Countdown 9. Life begins in the Cambrian explosion. Earth finally cools down. The lava oceans solidify, steam turns into rain, and water fills the basins. Now we've got oceans. And in these oceans, something almost magical happens. Chemistry throws a party. Around 3.5 billion years ago, tiny molecules start sticking together in clever ways, and suddenly, life. Just microscopic single-celled blobs, but hey, it's a start. These early cells figure out how to eat sunlight, turning it into energy. That little trick, called photosynthesis, slowly fills the atmosphere with oxygen. At first, it's poison to most life forms, but oxygen also makes bigger, more complex life possible. So life gets creative. Cells start teaming up, forming multicellular organisms, basically the first attempt at teamwork. They grow fins, shells, nervous systems, and then, about 540 million years ago, bam, the Cambrian explosion. It's like life hits the fast-forward button. Suddenly, the oceans are packed with bizarre creatures: spiky worms, armored trilobites, giant sea scorpions. Predators and prey, the first food chains, a world bursting with experimentation. It's chaotic, it's brutal, and it's beautiful. Evolution is running wild, testing every possible design. Most will go extinct, but a few will set the stage for everything that comes next. And here's the crazy part. You can trace every living thing today, sharks, birds, humans, back to the evolutionary lottery of this period. Without that explosion of life, Earth might still just be a planet full of slime. But the story's not done, because soon, life is going to crawl out of the water onto land and take over the continents. Countdown. 8. Rise of vertebrates, plants, and the Permian mass extinction. From brine shrimp to giant insects, and then everything died. Let's rewind a bit. After the Cambrian explosion, life gets ambitious. Around 400 million years ago, plants start moving onto land. At first, it's just tiny moss and lichen hugging the ground. But soon they evolve into the first forests, towering trees that reshape the planet, pumping oxygen into the atmosphere like never before. With forests comes food, and with food comes animals. Fish, which had been ruling the seas, start experimenting with limbs. Some of them crawl onto land, gasping for air. These pioneers become the first amphibians, the ancestors of frogs, salamanders, and eventually us. Life has officially left the ocean. As plants and animals spread, ecosystems explode with variety. Insects grow so huge you wouldn't want to meet them in a dark forest. Dragonflies the size of seagulls buzz overhead. Giant reptiles begin to appear, setting the stage for the dinosaurs to come. But Earth isn't always kind. About 252 million years ago, disaster strikes. The Permian extinction. It's the biggest die-off in history. Massive volcanic eruptions fill the skies with ash and poison the seas with carbon dioxide. Climate swings violently, oxygen plummets, and almost everything dies. Around 90% of life vanishes. Plants, insects, animals, gone. It's called the Great Dying. And yet, life finds a way. The few survivors will set the stage for one of the most famous chapters in Earth's history, the Age of Dinosaurs. Countdown, number 7, Age of Dinosaurs to Mammals. So the tiny critters had their moment, but suddenly, dinosaurs show up. And they're huge, like skyscraper-sized reptiles stomping everywhere, eating plants, eating other reptiles, just doing dinosaur stuff. Meanwhile, tiny little furry mammals are sneaking around in the shadows, trying not to get eaten. And they're thinking, hey, maybe we can live in the dark, burrow underground, stay out of trouble. Smart move, little guys. Dinosaurs dominate the planet for millions of years. You've got flying ones, swimming ones, ones with spikes, horns, plates, and even feathers, because apparently nature likes variety. Then, 66 million years ago, bam! A giant rock from space smashes into Earth, creating chaos. Dust blocks the sun, temperatures plummet, dinosaurs freak out, and most of them die. And suddenly the stage is clear. The tiny mammals that were hiding? They start to explore, grow bigger, evolve, and fill all the niches the dinosaurs left behind. And that, my friends, is how furry little mammals take over the world, eventually leading to us humans. But that's a story for later. So remember, dinosaurs may have ruled the day, but mammals, we were just patiently plotting our rise. Countdown, number 6. Early humans and stone tools. So, dinosaurs are gone, mammals are running the world, and somewhere in Africa, tiny apes are thinking, maybe we can do something clever with our hands. These clever apes slowly evolve into early humans, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, eventually Homo sapiens, each one learning a little more than the last. And what's the first really big idea? Tools. Yeah, rocks, sticks, sharpened bones. Basically, the ultimate Swiss Army knife of prehistory. You hit, you cut, you dig, you poke, life suddenly gets a lot easier. Then one day, somebody discovers fire. Fire is like the universe's gift card for humans. It cooks food, keeps predators away, warms your hands, and gives you light to stay up and talk about stuff at night. Genius. Humans start moving around too. They walk, they run, they wander out of Africa, into Europe, Asia, Australia, even to the icy edges of the world. And everywhere they go, they adapt. New climates, new animals, new plants. Every challenge sparks more clever ideas. And with tools and fire, humans are no longer just another species. They start to shape the world. They carve, paint, and leave marks on cave walls, telling stories of hunts, animals, and maybe some really weird dreams. It's like early social media, but with more mud. So while tiny mammals once hid in the shadows of dinosaurs, humans are now stepping into the light, literally. And the world? Well, it's about to change forever. One stone tool at a time. Because from this point on, everything humans touch gets a little more interesting, a little more complicated, and a lot more ours. Countdown number 5. Agrarian Revolution and First Civilizations. Speculative pyramid angle. So humans have been wandering around, hunting, gathering, and basically living like ultimate nomads. But then, bam, agriculture. Suddenly people are planting seeds, tending crops, and domesticating animals. Wheat, barley, goats, cows. It's like nature's own all-you-can-eat buffet. And when you grow your own food, something wild happens. You don't have to move all the time. You can stay in one place, build houses, maybe even invent taxes. That's right. Civilization begins. Cities start popping up like mushrooms after rain. First, there's Sumer in Mesopotamia, around 4500 to 3000 BCE. The Sumerians were likely a mix of indigenous people of southern Mesopotamia and migrants from the east, sometimes linked to the Ubaid culture. They build the first cities, invent cuneiform writing, and create systems to track trade, taxes, and stories. Suddenly, humans can record history, trade goods, and even write complaints about taxes. Meanwhile, in Egypt along the Nile, the first Egyptians probably descended from local hunter-gatherers who adopted agriculture from the Fertile Crescent, mixing with Nubian and nearby populations. They tame the river, farm fertile lands, and build monuments that still blow our minds today. The pyramids of Giza, Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure are the stars of the show, built over 4,000 years ago, aligned with the cardinal directions, and some say even mirroring the stars of Orion's belt. Most scientists call them tombs for pharaohs. But some scholars, or let's be honest, some wild theorists, say, what if these weren't just tombs? What if they were advanced structures, built with knowledge or help from ancestors who came from other planets, nudging human evolution along faster than normal biological steps? Suddenly, humans go from curious apes to civilization-building superstars, maybe a little faster than Mother Nature intended. Over in the Indus Valley, cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa emerge, around 2600–1900 BCE. These people were probably descendants of early agriculturalists in the region, mixing with local hunter-gatherers. Their cities have streets in perfect grids, sophisticated drainage systems, and standardized weights. Basically, a masterclass in urban planning without skyscrapers or electricity. And then there's early writing. Not just Sumerian cuneiform, but Egyptian hieroglyphs, Indus symbols, and other proto-scripts. Suddenly, humans are recording transactions, stories, laws, and prayers. Writing is like giving civilization a permanent memory, way more useful than your average cave painting. With agriculture, cities, and writing comes empires, kings, pharaohs, emperors, fancy crowns and sandals, giving orders, collecting tribute, building roads, canals, walls, temples, and ziggurats. Humans are turning the world into a giant organized system, and it's only getting started. So, from wandering hunter-gatherers to city-building, crop-growing, law-making humans, this is where our story really starts to get complicated, ambitious, and maybe a little mysterious. One city, one civilization, one grand pyramid, aligned with the stars, possibly hinting at cosmic visitors, and one story at a time. Countdown. Number 4. Classical empires and major belief systems with cities. So, humans went from building cities and pyramids to, well, building empires. Massive, sprawling empires ruled by emperors, kings, and sometimes really ambitious queens. And with empires comes ideas, laws, and belief systems that change everything. Let's start with Greece. Around 800 to 300 BCE, city-states like Athens and Sparta rise. Athens is all about philosophy, democracy, and arts. Think Plato, Socrates, and the first debates about how people should live together. Sparta? Total military powerhouse. And some Greek cities like Corinth and Thebes leave ruins and influence that survive even today. Greece is also home to epic myths, gods, heroes, and monsters that inspire stories for thousands of years. Then we have Rome. From a small city on the Tiber River, Rome grows into an empire that stretches across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Emperors like Augustus, Julius Caesar, and Constantine shape politics, law, and religion. And of course there's Cleopatra, last pharaoh of Egypt, navigating love, politics, and power while Rome keeps expanding. Rome gives the world roads, aqueducts, and laws that still influence us today. And cities like Rome itself, Pompeii, and Naples still stand, telling stories from thousands of years ago. Over in Persia, the Achaemenid Empire rises around 550 BCE, stretching from the Indus Valley to the Mediterranean. Kings like Cyrus the Great and Darius III are known for tolerance, clever administration, and building the royal road to connect their massive empire. Important cities like Persepolis and Susa were centers of administration and culture, with ruins still visible today. The Persian Empire shows the world that empires can be huge, diverse, and surprisingly organized. Meanwhile, in Asia, the Maurya Empire in India unites much of the subcontinent under rulers like Chandragupta Maurya and Ashoka the Great, who spreads Buddhism and sets ethical governance. Cities like Pataliputra, modern Patna, were major political and cultural hubs. The Han dynasty in China expands territory, creates a bureaucracy, invents paper, and establishes the Silk Road. Cities like Chang'an, modern Xi'an, were vibrant trade and culture centers, connecting east and west. And then, humans start asking the big questions. Why are we here? How should we live? Enter major religions: Hinduism and Buddhism in India, Judaism in the Middle East, Christianity spreading across the Roman Empire, and later Islam uniting vast regions in the Middle East and beyond. These belief systems shape laws, morals, and cultures for millennia, guiding everything from kings' decisions to daily life for ordinary people. So in this era, humans are building cities, roads, empires, philosophies, and religions. Big ideas that literally change how the world works. Empires rise and fall, but the cities, stories, laws, and beliefs, many of them still exist today, echoing through time and shaping the world we live in now. Countdown. Number 3. Middle Ages to Renaissance. So the classical empires fall, and Europe enters what some call the Dark Ages. But don't worry, it's not all gloom and doom. Knights, castles, and epic battles? Oh yeah, plenty of that. But humans are also building the foundation for the future. In Europe, feudalism organizes society. Kings, lords, and peasants all doing their jobs, sometimes happily, sometimes not so much. Key cities like Paris, London, and Rome continue to thrive, keeping trade, culture, and politics alive. Monasteries preserve knowledge. Scribes copy manuscripts, and slowly, ideas start to spread. Meanwhile, in the Islamic world, the golden age of Islam flourishes. Cities like Baghdad, Cordoba, and Damascus are buzzing with scholars, inventors, and thinkers. Algebra, medicine, astronomy, and literature are reaching heights that Europe won't see for centuries. Humans are basically taking knowledge and supercharging it. Further east, the Mongol Empire sweeps across Asia in the 13th century. Cities like Karakoram and Samarkand become trade hubs along the Silk Road, connecting China, India, the Middle East, and Europe. Ideas, goods, and technologies are moving faster than ever before, making the world smaller, richer, and weirder. Back in Europe, disaster strikes too. The Black Death wipes out a huge chunk of the population in the 14th century. But out of this chaos comes change. Labor shortages give peasants more power, towns grow, and trade picks up again. Then comes the Renaissance, literally a rebirth of learning, art, and science. Cities like Florence, Venice, and Rome are alive with painters, architects, and inventors. Leonardo da Vinci sketches flying machines, studies human anatomy, and experiments with hydraulics. Galileo Galilei observes the skies with telescopes, discovering moons of Jupiter and supporting the heliocentric model. Copernicus lays out the sun-centered solar system. Andreas Vesalius maps the human body with unprecedented detail. And in art, humans start seeing differently. Giotto, for example, paints figures with depth, emotion, and perspective, making flat, symbolic images come alive. Later artists like Michelangelo and Raphael take this even further, using light, shadow, and realistic proportions to show the world as humans actually perceive it. Perspective in art mirrors the new scientific perspective, humans looking at the world with curiosity, measurement, and imagination. So, from knights and castles to plague, painters, telescopes, and perspective, humans are learning to rebuild, rethink, and reimagine their world. Knowledge preserved, ideas spread, discoveries made, cities grow, and humans begin seeing both the world and themselves like never before. Age of Exploration and Revolutions, 1492–1815. In 1492, a single voyage set sail across unknown oceans and changed the world forever. Christopher Columbus reached the Caribbean, marking the start of sustained European contact with the Americas. Over the next century, Spain and Portugal carved vast empires. In 1521, Hernán Cortés conquered the Aztec Empire, and in 1533, Francisco Pizarro toppled the Inca Empire. By the 1600s and 1700s, England and France had established colonies across North America and the Caribbean. Indigenous populations suffered devastating losses. through warfare, enslavement, and disease. Smallpox and measles alone wiped out up to 90% of native peoples in some regions. At the same time, the transatlantic slave trade intensified. Millions of Africans were forcibly transported to the Americas, building colonial wealth through unimaginable suffering. The Age of Exploration also sparked the Columbian Exchange, a massive movement of plants, animals, and ideas between continents. Horses, cattle, and wheat arrived in the Americas. Corn, potatoes, and tomatoes traveled to Europe, Asia, and Africa. This biological exchange transformed diets, economies, and even human societies across the globe. In 1776, the American colonies declared independence from England. The Declaration of Independence proclaimed a radical new idea, that all men are created equal. A new nation, the United States of America, was born. Across the Atlantic, France erupted in revolution in 1789. The monarchy fell, and ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity spread across Europe, inspiring generations to come. In 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself emperor, reshaping Europe through a series of wars that would last until 1815. The world was changing faster than ever before, setting the stage for a century of nationalism, industrialization, and social upheaval. Exploration, conquest, and revolution, combined with the sweeping movements of plants, animals, and ideas, laid the foundations of the modern world, showing both the heights of human ambition and the interconnectedness of life on Earth. Countdown. Number 2. Modern Revolution, Industrial to Global, till 1960. So, humans have been painting, studying stars, and building cities. And now it's time to crank things up a notch. Welcome to the modern revolution. It starts with the scientific revolution, but now humans are accelerating faster than ever. Newton explains gravity, Kepler maps planets, Descartes thinks, "I think, therefore I am," and centuries later, Einstein changes everything. In 1919, during a solar eclipse, Einstein's predictions are tested. Starlight is deflected by gravity, proving that mass bends space and energy, and famously energy equal, mc squared, shows energy and mass are equivalent. Humans start understanding the universe in ways previously unimaginable. Then comes the Industrial Revolution. Factories, steam engines, trains, and coal power change everything. Cities like Manchester, London, Pittsburgh, and Berlin explode with population and industry. Humans invent telegraphs, transistors, electronic, photography, cars, airplanes, radios, vaccines, and the telephone, basically everything that makes modern life. Petroleum, the black gold, fuels cars, planes, and industry, becoming the lifeblood of modern economies and geopolitics. At the same time, nationalism spreads across Europe, Asia, and beyond. People start identifying with countries, not just kings, creating pride, tension, and eventually conflict. And then, war. World War I erupts in 1914, triggered by nationalism, alliances, and the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Millions die, trenches scar Europe, and the Allies win, reshaping borders and politics forever. Meanwhile, the Russian Revolution in 1917 topples the monarchy and creates the Soviet Union, inspiring new political ideas across the globe. The 1920s bring economic growth, jazz, and cultural innovation, but the Great Depression of the 1930s hits hard, leaving millions unemployed worldwide. A couple decades later, World War II explodes. Germany, Italy, and Japan push for expansion, while the Allies, Britain, France, the US, and the Soviet Union, fight back. Cities are bombed, Holocaust horrors revealed, and millions perish. The war ends with the United States emerging as a global superpower. In 1945, the atomic bomb is dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, showing the terrifying power of human technology and marking the start of the nuclear age. Other wars, like the Korean War and Vietnam War, shaped the Cold War era and the struggle for influence around the globe. Afterward, the United Nations is founded to prevent future global conflicts, and decolonization begins as countries in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East gain independence from European empires. The Cold War dominates geopolitics, and the Berlin Wall becomes the symbol of a divided world. until it falls in 1989, showing that even the strongest walls can come down. Science and technology leap forward. The space race sends humans to the moon in 1969. Computers, satellites, and rockets change communication, travel, and exploration. By 1968, cultural revolutions sweep the globe: music, protests, civil rights, and new ways of thinking. So from telescopes to factories, revolutions to moon landings, wars to independence, and relativity to mass energy, humans reshape the planet faster than ever. Knowledge, machines, science, and ideas combine to make the modern world. Cities grow, nations rise and fall, inventions multiply, and humanity is ready for the next stage: the digital age, global communication, and the challenges that lie ahead. Age of exploration and revolutions, 1492–1815. In 1492, a single voyage set sail across unknown oceans and changed the world forever. Christopher Columbus reached the Caribbean, marking the start of sustained European contact with the Americas. Over the next century, Spain and Portugal carved vast empires. In 1521, Hernán Cortés conquered the Aztec Empire, and in 1533, Francisco Pizarro toppled the Inca Empire. By the 1600s and 1700s, England and France had established colonies across North America and the Caribbean. Indigenous populations suffered devastating losses through warfare, enslavement, and disease. Smallpox and measles alone wiped out up to 90% of native peoples in some regions. At the same time, the transatlantic slave trade intensified. Millions of Africans were forcibly transported to the Americas, building colonial wealth through unimaginable suffering. The Age of Exploration also sparked the Columbian Exchange, a massive movement of plants, animals, and ideas between continents. Horses, cattle, and wheat arrived in the Americas. Corn, potatoes, and tomatoes traveled to Europe, Asia, and Africa. This biological exchange transformed diets, economies, and even human societies across the globe. In 1776, the American colonies declared independence from England. The Declaration of Independence proclaimed a radical new idea: that all men are created equal. A new nation, the United States of America, was born. Across the Atlantic, France erupted in revolution in 1789. The monarchy fell, and ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity spread across Europe, inspiring generations to come. In 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself emperor, reshaping Europe through a series of wars that would last until 1815. The world was changing faster than ever before, setting the stage for a century of nationalism, industrialization, and social upheaval. Exploration, conquest, and revolution, combined with the sweeping movements of plants, animals, and ideas, laid the foundations of the modern world, showing both the heights of human ambition and the interconnectedness of life on Earth. Countdown. Number 1. Digital age, climate crisis, and human future. So, humans have painted, built pyramids, fought wars, and invented basically everything except teleportation. And now we're in the digital age. It all starts with the internet. Invented in the late 1960s so a few nerds could share research without yelling across campus. By the 1990s, it explodes into mass communication, connecting billions of people who now argue online about cats, politics, and what cereal is best. Social networks, email, online shopping, streaming. Humans suddenly can do everything without leaving the couch. Cities, economies, and cultures are all connected like one giant Wi-Fi brain. Meanwhile, humans keep fighting. Wars happen: Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Basically every time someone forgets to share nicely. Poland says, "Hey, we want freedom." And the solidarity movement kicks off change. COVID-19 arrives and reminds us that yes, humans are connected and also fragile. And just to keep things spicy, the Ukraine conflict shows that world drama never sleeps. Earlier, the Twin Towers fell in 2001, a tragedy that shook the world and changed the course of history forever. In 2009, Barack Obama made history as the first African-American president, passing the Affordable Care Act, tackling climate change, and in 2011 ordering the operation that killed Osama bin Laden. Donald Trump took office in 2017 with his America First agenda. Joe Biden followed in 2021, focusing on pandemic recovery and rebuilding infrastructure. And in 2024, Trump returned to the White House for a non-consecutive term, a rare moment in U.S. history. Meanwhile, China rises, quietly plotting to take over. Politely, mostly. Science zooms ahead. Satellites orbit Earth, humans walk on the moon, rovers drive on Mars, and we invent renewable energy because apparently, the planet gets grumpy if we keep burning stuff. And here, that's the fun part, AI and robots might finally do the boring stuff for us. They can crunch numbers, model the climate, assist in medicine, and even make art, movies, and weird creative stuff that challenges what humans thought was possible. AI could help you make a blockbuster movie without ever leaving your bedroom, which is probably cheaper than Hollywood. Of course, humans still have problems. Climate change, inequality, and figuring out how to work alongside AI without getting replaced by a friendly robot, or a not-so-friendly one. But humans adapt. Renewable energy, smart cities, global cooperation. Humans are messy, but somehow they keep going. And so, the story continues. From pyramids to the internet, from telescopes to moon landings, humans are always building, imagining, and occasionally messing things up spectacularly. And now, with AI, global technology, and imagination on steroids, imagining what the future could be like is the best kind of adventure.